She was still chewing when she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You know what your problem is? You always act like you're owed something." That was it. That was the moment. Over a half-burnt bagel and lukewarm eggs, she decided I was the villain of her carefully curated life. I didn't say a word. Not because I was calm. No, I had a lump in my throat the size of my disappointment. But her best friend, the one who'd been crashing with us for going on 2 weeks, decided she would speak for both of them. She pushed back from the table slowly, like she'd been waiting for this, and said with the kind of fake kindness you can smell a mile away, "Why don't you step outside for a bit? Give us a second." No one argued, least of all me. The door clicked behind me like it was locking in something far worse than silence. And that was the moment I realized I was no longer part of their world, just orbiting it, hoping to be let back in. I sat on the front steps for what felt like hours. First I scrolled through my phone pretending I wasn't shaken, then I started checking the same 3 apps over and over like they'd give me answers. They didn't. You know what did? The laughter. Faint at first, then louder, then unmistakably intimate. Not the kind of laugh you give after someone tells a joke. The kind you give when you share a secret, a memory, a plan. And just like that, like the way you suddenly feel rain on your skin and realize the sky had been dark all along, I understood. This had nothing to do with jam, or breakfast, or giving someone space. I was being pushed out of my own life, and they weren't even subtle about it anymore. I didn't go back inside for hours. At first, it was because I thought I was being mature, giving her space, letting things cool down. That's what Lena always said she needed when she got like this, space. But after an hour on those concrete steps, with no texts, no calls, not even a glance from the window, I realized this wasn't about space. It was about exclusion. And I wasn't just excluded from the conversation. I was being excluded from my own marriage. I thought about knocking. I stood up, paced around the yard twice, even walked to the edge of the street like I was going to leave. But where would I go? Every friend I had had slowly disappeared after we got married. She said they were bad influences. I believed her. I wanted to believe she had my best interests at heart. But now I was standing outside like a delivery guy who got the wrong address. When I finally did go back in, quietly, using the key she probably forgot I still had, the silence hit me first. Not because the house was empty. No, because it wasn't. They were upstairs. I could hear soft thuds on the floorboards above the kitchen, drawers opening, hushed voices. I stood there in the hallway frozen like a kid caught sneaking out. Something told me not to call out. Not yet. So I waited. Again. And then I heard it, Tamron laughing. Not a casual laugh. Not a "we're just talking" laugh. It was deeper than that. Softer. Intimate. My stomach twisted so hard I had to grip the counter. I wanted to scream. Ask her what was so funny. Demand to know why I had to spend my morning on a cold front step while they were upstairs sharing what? Clothes? Secrets? Beds. But I didn't. Because in that moment, I realized I was scared of the answer. I was scared that everything I'd been suspecting for the last 6 months, the weird energy between them, the sudden coldness from Lena, the sleepovers that didn't end, it might all be real. And then it happened. The moment that broke me. I heard my name. Tamron said it. Quietly. Like a whisper. And Lena laughed. That was it. That was the switch. The part of me that always made excuses for her, gone. The guy who said, "She's just stressed," or "She needs space," or "It's probably nothing," dead. So I did something I shouldn't have. I walked straight to the bottom of the stairs. Slowly. Quietly. And I listened. Just long enough to confirm what I didn't want to believe. Then I took out my phone and hit record. I didn't even know why I hit record. It wasn't planned. It wasn't revenge. It was instinct, a pathetic, desperate attempt to prove I wasn't crazy. That I wasn't just imagining the shift in her. The coolness. The distance. The way she smiled at everyone except me lately. And now, the sounds above me. The door creaking open, soft footsteps. Tamron saying my name like it was some kind of inside joke. It was all too much. I needed evidence. Even if it was just for myself. The recording didn't capture much at first. Muffled voices. Laughter. But it was what I heard with my own ears, not through the speaker, that made my heart drop. I heard Lena say something that didn't make sense. Not at first. She said, "I don't care if he finds out. Let him." Let me? Let me what? Let me know I'm not wanted? Let me know I'm being replaced? Let me finally understand that I'd been clinging to a version of her that didn't exist anymore? I stood there, shaking, not because I was angry, but because I finally realized the truth had been staring me in the face for months, and I refused to look at it. I thought marriages went through phases, that people just needed space. But now I was starting to see it for what it was, a slow eviction from my own life. Then I heard the door upstairs open, and I panicked. I bolted for the kitchen like a coward. I didn't even have a plan. I just stood by the fridge pretending to look for something, like a guy who still had control over his home, like I hadn't just been eavesdropping with my whole heart cracking wide open. Lena came down first. Hair slightly messy, eyes sharper than usual. She didn't say anything, just walked past me, barefoot, into the living room and picked up her phone. No, where were you? No, are you okay? Not even fake concern. Just nothing. Tamron followed a few seconds later. She saw me. She paused. And then she smiled. Like a real, genuine smile. The kind that says, I know something you don't. And it made my blood run cold. That's when I realized they weren't just hiding something. They were comfortable with it. Proud of it. Like I was the one intruding. And then Lena finally spoke. You should go visit your brother. Clear your head for a few days. Just like that. No explanation. No question. Just a command wrapped in a calm voice. I nodded. I always nod. But I wasn't going to my brother's. I was going somewhere else. Because if they wanted me gone, I was going to find out why. I didn't pack much. Just enough to make it believable. A few shirts, my laptop, a toothbrush. I even threw in the old hoodie Lena used to wear when she pretended to miss me. I left it folded on the bed, like some kind of breadcrumb trail of good memories. But I wasn't heading to my brother's. I hadn't even spoken to him in months. What I needed wasn't comfort. It was answers. I drove 2 blocks away, parked behind the diner with the broken neon sign, and waited. I knew Lena. She was predictable in her cruelty, cold but consistent. If she really wanted me out of the way, she wouldn't wait long to take advantage of the silence. And I was right. It took less than an hour. A car I didn't recognize pulled into the driveway, a silver hatchback, newer model, tinted windows. I'd never seen it before. Definitely not one of Tamron's. A man stepped out. Tall, athletic, confident in a way that made me instantly shrink in my seat. He didn't knock. He didn't even hesitate. He just walked right in like he'd done it 100 times before. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles hurt. I wasn't sure if I was angry or ashamed. Maybe both. Maybe I was finally waking up to the fact that I'd been nothing more than a placeholder in my own marriage, a convenience. A silent man who cooked breakfast and kept the lights on while she auditioned better options. I should have left it there. I should have driven away and cut my losses. But I didn't. I needed to know more. So I waited another 15 minutes, then drove around the back and cut through the neighbor's side yard like some teenage delinquent. I could see through the back window just enough. There they were. Lena, Tamron, and the stranger. Sitting together like it was some weird brunch meeting. No tension. No secrecy. Just casual smiles, legs crossed. Wine glasses on the coffee table, at noon. Tamron leaned into the man, whispered something, and he laughed. Lena rested her hand on his knee. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't new. This wasn't a reckless fling or an emotional mistake. This was a system. A partnership. Maybe even a long game. They'd pushed me out not because I was in the way, but because they were done pretending. I was the last prop still standing in the play they'd already rewritten without me. I stepped back, almost tripping over a garden hose. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out right there in the dirt. But I didn't. I ran back to the car, turned off my phone, and just sat in the dark. And for the first time in months, I didn't cry. I started planning. Because if they were done pretending, so was I. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in my car at the edge of the city, watching the gas station lights flicker through the windshield, replaying everything in my head like some twisted highlight reel. Lena's hand on his knee. Tamron's smug little smirk. Their laughter echoing through the window like they were mocking me from a world I used to belong to. And the worst part? I still loved her. Or maybe I just loved the version of her I built in my head, the one that never really existed. The next morning, I drove back, not to confront them, but to prepare. I parked 2 blocks away again, made sure no one saw me, and slipped around the back. I knew exactly where the spare key was hidden. Funny how some betrayals rely on old trust. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. I just slipped into the garage and grabbed 2 things I knew Lena never touched. The storage bin labeled tax stuff, and the small fireproof safe we kept in the back, the one with all the important documents. I didn't steal anything. Not technically. I opened the bin, took photos of every document inside, bank statements, insurance policies, property agreements. Then I opened the safe. Inside was the folder we signed when we refinanced the house 2 years ago. And that's where I saw it. My name wasn't on the updated title. She'd removed me. Quietly. Legally. Like she knew this was coming and just didn't bother to tell me. I almost laughed. I really did. Because that was the moment everything snapped into focus. Lena wasn't confused. She wasn't unsure about our marriage. She was calculating. Strategic. She hadn't pushed me to visit my brother to avoid drama. She'd done it to clear the field. She wanted time. Uninterrupted. She wanted space to move him in, move me out, and make sure she held all the cards when the dust settled. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. I left everything exactly where it was. Locked the safe. Closed the bin. Put the key back under the fake rock. And then I drove to a coffee shop and sent one email to Morgan Tate, my old college roommate who now worked as a forensic accountant for a law firm downtown. The subject line was simple. Need advice. Quietly. Morgan and I hadn't spoken in years, but I remembered one thing clearly. He used to say the best way to win a war is to make the other side think you're still surrendering. That's what I was going to do. I'd smile. I'd nod. I'd play the part of the clueless, harmless husband. But behind the scenes, I was going to unravel everything Lena built, piece by piece, using the same quiet ruthlessness she tried to use on me. And the best part? She'd never see it coming. Morgan didn't ask for details. He just replied with a number and a meeting location, a quiet little office above a dentist's clinic that smelled like dust and lemon wipes. He hadn't changed much, same sharp eyes, same habit of rubbing his chin when he was thinking too hard. I handed him the photos. Didn't say much. Just let him scroll through my phone while I sat there sipping cheap coffee and trying not to fall apart. After about 10 minutes of silence, he finally looked up and said, "She's not just planning to leave you. She's planning to erase you." I nodded. I already knew that part. But hearing it from someone else made it feel more final. More real. Morgan walked me through everything. How she'd refinanced behind my back, likely forged my e-signature on 2 forms, rerouted certain assets to her own name, and had even changed the beneficiaries on both of our life insurance policies. I didn't know whether to be impressed or sick to my stomach. Then he said something that made me sit up straight. "You still have access to the utilities in your name?" I did. "Then don't cancel them. Control them. Water, gas, internet, electric, anything she needs to live comfortably. You're not cutting her off. Not yet. You're just going to remind her who still holds the strings." That's when the plan began to take shape. Not some angry, explosive confrontation. No shouting matches. No scandalous social media posts. No, just a slow, precise unraveling. The kind that makes someone think they're losing their mind when really, they're just losing the game they thought they'd already won. That night, I logged into every utility account we had. I didn't shut anything down. I just changed the passwords, enabled alerts, shifted billing notifications to a private email Lena didn't know existed. Then I logged into our shared calendar, the one she hadn't checked in months, and scheduled a roof inspection for the following Wednesday. It was fake, but it gave me a reason to show up. She needed to feel comfortable. She needed to believe I was still the doormat. Still the fool who walked out when told and waited for permission to come back. That's the version of me she was counting on. And I was more than happy to let her believe it. But behind the scenes, I was mapping everything. Morgan had a contact who specialized in asset tracing and legal documentation. I gave him access to what I had. My phone, my bank logins, even the smart thermostat records, which showed the exact times people were in the house while I was supposed to be away. Every digital footprint Lena and Tamarin had tried to cover, we were uncovering. Quietly. Efficiently. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. What I wanted was control. And for the first time in years, I finally had it. It happened on a Thursday. Late afternoon. I wasn't even supposed to be in town. According to Lena, I was still cooling off at my brother's cabin. She had no idea I'd rented a small apartment across town under my middle name, just to keep watch from a distance. Everything had been quiet for days. Too quiet. Until my phone buzzed with a security alert. Garage door opened. 3:12 p.m. I pulled up the camera feed. Nothing unusual at first. Tamarin's car. Lena's laughter. Then the man again, the one I'd seen before. This time, I finally caught his license plate. But what really made me freeze wasn't him. It was the delivery that came 10 minutes later. A man in a navy polo walked up the steps with a bouquet, not just flowers, but a white orchid arrangement, the kind Lena used to say were her favorite because they were subtle but expensive. The delivery tag said, "For my girls. Can't wait for next weekend, J. Girls. Plural." I saved the footage. Send it to Morgan. 10 minutes later, he replied with 2 words. Mistake. Document it. Lena had slipped. She didn't know I was still on the utilities. She didn't realize I'd reconnected the security system through my own cloud account. She thought she had the house to herself, clean slate, clean conscience. But now I had timestamps, visual proof, and even better, a name. J. I started cross-referencing Lena's work calendar, emails I'd found in the shared laptop backups, and even her old social media likes from months ago. Took less than an hour to find him. Jared, her company's former marketing consultant. Divorced. Lives 2 towns over. Posts inspirational gym quotes and hiking photos with vague captions like, "Clearing my mind with someone special." It made my stomach turn, but it was useful. Because Lena had officially broken the script. She was no longer hiding the affair. She was openly building a new life inside the one I still legally owned half of. That was her mistake. So I made my move. The next morning, I filed a quiet petition for injunctive relief, essentially freezing any major financial changes on shared assets. Morgan handled the paperwork. Lena wouldn't be notified immediately. That gave me time. Then I called the property manager of the house, the one we were supposedly going to rent out next year once things settled down. I told her to change the locks. Lena had no idea we still had 2 backup investment properties from before the refinancing. I told the manager to list it as unavailable due to ownership restructuring. And just like that, a third of her plan vanished. She wouldn't know until she tried to transfer the lease. Until she realized her name didn't hold as much weight without mine. I wasn't being vindictive. I was being measured. She created the maze. I just decided to stop being the rat inside it. What she didn't know yet, and what made all of this so perfectly silent, was that I'd already scheduled a private sit-down with a mediator. Not a divorce lawyer. Not yet. That would be too obvious. But someone who could help tip the balance when things eventually exploded. And oh, they would. Because the more comfortable she got, the more mistakes she'd make. And I was done cleaning up after her. It didn't end with a screaming match. No one flipped a table. No doors slammed. In fact, when Lena finally learned what I'd done, she didn't even raise her voice. That's how I knew it was real. She wasn't surprised. She was cornered. It started with the email. A formal notice from the mediator's office with both our names on it. She replied in less than 10 minutes, asking me to meet at the house, one last time to talk in person. I agreed. Of course I did. When I walked through the front door, the silence felt different. Not heavy, hollow. Tamron wasn't there. Jared wasn't lurking in the background. Just Lena, standing in the living room, arms crossed, trying to look calm but blinking too much. She gestured to the couch. I didn't sit. She asked if I was really doing this. I told her, "No, Lena. You already did this. I'm just not letting you finish it your way." She tried to spin it, said we'd grown apart, that she didn't mean for things to unravel like this. But her voice cracked when she mentioned the second house, the utilities, the legal freeze. She hadn't expected me to move that fast, or that quietly. She thought I'd be too heartbroken to act. I was, but I acted anyway. I didn't gloat. I didn't shame her. I told her I wanted peace, that we'd sell the house, split the equity, and go our separate ways without dragging it into court. She hesitated, then agreed. And just like that, it was done. I walked out of the house with nothing in my hands. But I didn't feel empty. 2 months later, I signed the final papers. I moved into a smaller place near the edge of town, nothing fancy, but mine. I bought myself a coffee machine, started running again, even called a few old friends back just to say hey. The kind of stuff I hadn't done in years. And here's the thing, I don't hate Lena. I don't even wish her the worst. I just finally understand that being quiet doesn't mean being weak. And being kind doesn't mean letting someone walk all over you until you're flat. She wanted me to disappear. Instead, I learned how to exist again. And I like this version of me. The one who walks into his own house, makes his own rules, and doesn't apologize for taking up space. So no, I didn't win in the dramatic, movie-ending kind of way. But I didn't lose, either. I walked away with my name, my dignity, and finally, my peace.